After moving into my mother-in-law's house to help, I slowly took control of her finances. One night she cried, "I just wanted family, not a stranger." I responded, "This is what you raised." Then, my husband checked her bank app. I didn't grow up with money. I worked for everything I had, scholarships, long hours, saving every dollar. So when I met Paul and he told me his mom lived in a nice house in Naperville, Illinois, I figured that kind of upbringing must come with stability. Maybe even kindness. I was wrong. From the start, Diane treated me like I was some outsider who wandered into their perfect little family. She always smiled with her mouth, but never her eyes. The first time I met her, she called me reserved. Said it like a warning. Paul thought she was just being old-fashioned. I thought she was cold. When we got engaged, Diane didn't say congratulations. She asked Paul if he was sure. At the time, I laughed it off. I told myself, she'll come around. She never did. She skipped my bridal shower.
No explanation, no apology.
At our rehearsal dinner, she texted Paul 30 minutes in, said she wasn't feeling well. I caught him looking at his phone, like someone just died. On our wedding day, she showed up 20 minutes late to the ceremony wearing a bright white dress. And then she left before we cut the cake. Didn't even say goodbye. Still, I tried. After the wedding, I'd call her once a week. Invite her over. She always had an excuse. When we announced we were trying for a baby, she said, "Hope it's not too soon. You both have so much to figure out still." She made me feel like a guest in my own life. But Paul loved her, so I tried to keep the peace. Then COVID hit.
Paul lost his job.
I was lucky. I could work from home, but it was brutal. We were stuck in a cramped condo, trying to keep our heads above water. Meanwhile, Diane had just been diagnosed with arthritis in both knees and couldn't drive anymore. Paul said, "We should move in with her for a while. She needs help, and we need a break." I didn't want to, but we couldn't afford our place anymore. So we sold it, packed up, and moved into her house in Naperville. I told myself it would only be for a few months. At first, it wasn't so bad. Diane played nice. She said thank you. She even let me cook in her precious kitchen. I thought maybe this was our turning point. I took her to doctor's appointments, cleaned the bathrooms, organized her meds, even cut her toenails when she couldn't reach them. I did everything. I thought I was finally earning her respect. But Diane is one of those people who smiles while she's stabbing you. She started making comments again. About my cooking. About how I don't talk enough or act like family. One day I heard her telling Paul, "She just doesn't fit in with us." I stood in the hallway, holding a basket of her laundry, listening to her pick me apart like I wasn't there. Then I found out she still called Paul's ex. The one he dated before me for 3 years. The one Diane had always loved. I saw a text pop up on her phone while I was helping her connect it to the Wi-Fi. "Miss our chats. He still has time to come back around." I didn't say anything. I just sat with it, let it burn a hole in me. About 2 months after we moved in, Diane asked me to help with her bills. "I don't understand this online crap," she said. "Can you just take care of it for me?" I said sure. She gave me her login info for her bank, her credit card, even her retirement account. She said she trusted me. At first, I just paid her bills. I kept everything clean. But we were stretched thin. One day, our joint account was almost empty. I used her card for groceries. Just once. She didn't notice. So, I used it again the next week. Then for gas. Then for a Target run. Every time I told myself I deserved it. I was caring for her, for free, around the clock. Months went by. Paul got a new job, but the pay wasn't great. I was still working remote, juggling everything. Diane started getting more demanding. She complained about the new doctor I found her. Said the house didn't feel like hers anymore. She even told me to stop rearranging things like I own the place. One day she snapped at me for not ordering her arthritis gloves on time. I'd been working a 10-hour day, taking care of everything, and she lost it over gloves. That night, I paid off our $3,000 credit card bill from her savings. She didn't notice. After that, I started transferring small amounts to our account every couple of weeks. A few hundred here, $600 there. Always telling myself it was payback for everything she put me through. She never checked the app, never noticed. Or so I thought. Then one night, she said something that flipped a switch in me. We were in the kitchen, late. Paul had gone to bed. She cornered me over the sink and said, "I just wanted family, not a stranger taking over my life." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I looked her in the eye and said, "This is what you raised." She stared at me like I'd slapped her. Her lip trembled. And then she cried. The next morning, Paul was quiet.
Too quiet.
He was sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at his phone. I asked what was wrong. He didn't answer at first. Then he looked up and said, "Why is there over $12,000 missing from Mom's savings?" I couldn't speak. That's when everything started to fall apart. I didn't answer Paul right away. I just stood there, cold all over.
My mouth was dry.
My hands were shaking. He held up Diane's phone. The screen still lit up with her bank app. "You want to explain this?" He asked again, quieter this time. I'd never heard his voice like that before. Flat, not angry, just empty. I sat down on the edge of the bed and stared at the carpet. "I used some of her money," I said. He blinked. "Some? I kept the house running. I bought groceries, paid bills. Do you think your mom would have survived in this place alone during COVID? I gave up everything to take care of her, Paul." He shook his head. $12,000 isn't groceries. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. That night, he slept in the guest room. The next day, Diane acted like nothing happened. She made herself oatmeal, humming like she didn't cry in front of me the night before. But I saw it in her eyes. She knew. A week later, Paul took time off work and made copies of every bank statement going back 6 months. He made a spreadsheet. I walked into the office and saw my name listed next to every charge. Hair salons, Amazon orders, a spa gift card I'd gotten for myself. He didn't even look at me when I stood in the doorway. Diane started leaving the room when I entered. She put a little sticky note on the medicine cabinet that said, "Ask Paul, not her." She wouldn't even make eye contact with me anymore. One night, I heard her whispering to Paul in the kitchen. She said, "She's a thief." And then something worse happened. Paul's uncle, Diane's older brother, showed up at the house. I'd met him once before, at our wedding. A quiet, serious man in his 70s. This time he came with a folder in his hand and a look I couldn't read. I didn't know what was in the folder until later. It was a power of attorney document. Diane was taking me off everything. I wasn't allowed to touch her accounts anymore. She gave Paul full control. She said it was for her peace of mind. That night, Paul told me we needed to create some distance. He suggested I move out for a while. Just until things calmed down. I laughed. "Where exactly do you want me to go, Paul? You think I can just crash on a friend's couch like I'm 22 again?" He didn't say anything. The next day, I got an email from his uncle's lawyer. Diane was officially filing a police report.
Fraud.
Misuse of elder finances. She was calling it a betrayal of trust. I begged Paul to stop it. I cried. I told him, "You know I never meant to hurt anyone. I was tired. I felt invisible. You left me alone in this house with her." He said, "And you stole from her." Then he moved into the basement. We lived like that for 3 more weeks. Quiet, tense, Diane acting smug, Paul barely speaking to me. I knew what she was doing. She wanted me gone. She was winning. And she was enjoying it. But what Diane didn't know is that I'd kept everything. Screenshots of texts, voicemails, copies of medical papers I'd filled out for her, notes from her doctor's office. I had proof. Not just of what I'd done, but of what she hadn't. Of how she'd manipulated Paul for years. Of how she'd never listed him as medical proxy, how she lied about certain benefits, how she refused to disclose parts of her estate planning. Even to him. She thought she was smart, but I was tired of being quiet. And she wasn't the only one who could play games. A week after I got that lawyer's email, I went to my sister's place in Oak Lawn. just packed a bag and left.
Paul didn't try to stop me.
Diane didn't even ask where I was going. That house stopped feeling like home the minute they turned on me. My sister tried to stay neutral, but it was obvious she didn't believe I stole anything. She said, "You gave up your life to take care of that woman. If Paul can't see that, that's on him." Still, she let me stay in her spare room, and I needed the space. Then came the real surprise. Diane tried to press charges. I found out from the detective who called me. He said it was being treated as financial elder abuse. That phrase hit me like a punch in the stomach. He asked me to come in for an interview. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. I called a lawyer. But here's where it gets messy. Diane didn't have everything in writing. No clear documentation of who paid what. Some accounts were joint. Some were under Paul's name, not hers. My name was still on several utility bills. I had emails from her asking me to manage her finances. I even had old texts where she thanked me for covering her prescriptions. And more than that, I had receipts. I started going through all the folders I kept on my cloud drive. Every expense, every bill, every schedule I'd created for her care. I wasn't stupid. I'd saved everything in case something like this happened. My lawyer sent a counter letter. If Diane wanted to claim I took money, we demand back pay for nearly 2 years of unpaid caregiving, rent, errands, transportation, and scheduling. She had no formal caregiver. That was me. And caregivers don't work for free. Suddenly, Diane's lawyer started to pull back. And that's when the biggest twist hit. I got a call from a woman named Barbara. She worked in estate planning and said she'd handled Diane's affairs years ago. Barbara said she'd received a new request from Diane to make changes, but something didn't sit right. Apparently, Diane was trying to shift all her assets to Paul and disinherit anyone else, just like she'd done when her own sister sued her years ago over a similar estate dispute. That case had been sealed, but Barbara remembered it. She told me, "Diane has a history of doing this. You're not the first person she's accused of taking advantage. She did this to her sister after their father died. Froze her out, made herself the only heir." I hung up the phone and just sat there. All this time, I thought Diane just hated me. But it wasn't personal. It was control. She had a pattern. Anyone who got too close, she cut out. First her sister. Now me. I told Paul all of this. I sent him the documents, the emails, the text from Barbara. He didn't respond. But 2 days later, I got a voicemail from him. His voice was low, tired. He said, "We need to talk. I think I made a mistake." By then, it was too late, because I'd already filed my own legal paperwork. Diane's finances weren't the only thing I'd been watching. I knew about the house,
The deed.
the missing amendments, the unpaid taxes, the backdoor refinancing Diane never told Paul about. I'd kept quiet for long enough. She wanted to make me the villain. Now I was going to show Paul exactly who his mother really was. Paul wanted to meet at a coffee shop in Naperville, away from the house. It had been almost 2 months since I left. He looked thinner, tired. He didn't touch his drink. He started with, "I read everything." I nodded. I didn't say a word. He went on, "I talked to Barbara. And I talked to the attorney Diane used to freeze out her sister. Everything lines up. She's done this before." I still didn't say anything. I wanted him to feel the silence. Then he said, "I didn't protect you. I let her turn me against you." That was the first time I cried in front of him since this started. But it was too late for sorry. I told him I'd already filed paperwork to begin an elder care reimbursement claim. I had proof I'd acted as her full-time caregiver, unpaid, for over 1.5 years. I had everything documented: mileage logs, grocery receipts, pharmacy pickups, hospital visits. Every single thing I did while living under her roof. The total claim? $31,280. My lawyer served Diane a week later. The look on her face when she opened that envelope, I'll never forget it. Paul told me she screamed at him for choosing me over his own blood. He said he didn't answer her. He just left the room. But that wasn't all. Remember the house? The one she owned. Turns out, when Diane refinanced during the 2008 crisis, she added Paul's name to the deed to secure a better rate. She thought it didn't matter, said he was just a co-signer. She never changed it back. And she never paid off the loan. She'd been making minimum payments for years, barely covering interest. When I left, I sent Paul everything I had: the deed, the tax notices, the equity reports. The truth was, Paul wasn't just a co-signer. He was a legal half-owner of the house. And Diane had no idea. So Paul made a choice. He called the bank. Triggered a forced sale. Diane screamed. She begged. She offered him full control of her retirement account just to stop it. But he didn't. He said, "You wanted control. Now live with the consequences." The house was sold within 3 months. Diane moved into a senior apartment complex outside Joliet. Small, beige, nothing like the home she lorded over for decades. I dropped the reimbursement claim once the house sale closed. My lawyer told me I could have pushed it further, maybe even sued for emotional distress. But I didn't want more money. I wanted peace. And I had it. Paul and I took a long break. We didn't speak for months. He asked to come see me the day after Diane moved. He looked like a different person, quieter, heavier, older. He said, "I let her twist things. I let her make me doubt you." I said, "You didn't stop her." He nodded. "I don't know if I can fix that." I told him I didn't know either. We're still working through it. Slowly. We meet sometimes.
We talk.
No promises. But I'll say this. When Diane cried in that kitchen and said she just wanted family, she thought she was the victim. She thought years of emotional poison wouldn't catch up to her. But it did. And when I said, "This is what you raised," I meant it. She raised a son who finally saw her for who she was. And she raised me too, just not the way she expected.